Evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. And on behalf of our municipal staff and members of council, I'd like to welcome all the guests in the audience tonight and those streaming at home to this physically distant meeting of the Planning Committee being held at the Regent Theatre in Picton. Members of the public who wish to attend Planning Committee meetings must register with the clerk's office in advance to ensure we are adhering to physical distancing guidelines. And people can register at clerks@pecounty.on.ca. Tonight's agenda is being live streamed, and any participation in the meeting proceedings will become part of the public record. Tonight's agenda lists all the items before committee for consideration. Copies of the agenda have been posted on our website. The recommended motions on tonight's agenda are shown in boldface. The recording from the meeting will be published on the county's website immediately and can be viewed by selecting the streaming tab on the county's homepage at thecounty.ca. Personal information collected as a result of this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act and will be used to assist in making decisions on these matters. The purpose of public meetings is to present planning applications in a public forum as required by the Planning Act. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments may be collected and may form part of the minutes, which will be available to the public. The public meeting is held to gather public opinion. No decisions are made at public meetings concerning planning applications unless noted otherwise. An exception to this rule is combined reports, which consolidate the public meeting and comprehensive reports. These applications are deemed by staff as straightforward and routine. Public meeting reports are provided to inform the public of all relevant information. Information and comments are gathered and then referred back to planning staff for the preparation of comprehensive report and recommendations to the Planning Committee. The recommendation is typically to approve with conditions or to deny a planning application. The Planning Committee then makes a recommendation on the application to the next Planning Committee agenda under Section 7. Council has the final say on applications from the county's perspective. Following Council's decision, notice will be circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal a decision of Council to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, or LPAT, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the municipal clerk before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal a decision. Bylaws listed on this agenda provide the force of law to previous decisions of council. And as a reminder, in the event of fire, please use the applicable exits in the theater to your left or right. And if I could ask everybody to turn off or mute their cell phones. So we'll move to item 2 on the agenda, which is confirmation of the agenda. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor McMahon. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a Roberts-McMahon motion that the agenda for the Planning Committee meeting of September 23rd, 2020 be confirmed.
Thank you. All those in favor? And that carries. Item 3 on the agenda, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. I see Councillor St. Jean. You have a declaration?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. With regards to item 7.5 on the agenda, Mr. Prinzen, the applicant, is a client of my business.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to item 4. We'll move into the Planning Committee. Item 4.1, if we could have a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Prinzen, seconded by Councillor McMahon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a Prinzen-McMahon motion that Council now move into Planning Committee for the purposes of hearing statutory public meetings with respect to planning applications held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? And that carries, and I will now hand this over to Councillor Mike Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to all those who are tuning in and here in person. These meetings are public meetings as required under the Planning Act and will deal with the planning applications listed on the agenda. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the County of Prince Edward on the application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the County of Prince Edward or make an electronic comment on the application. All right, so let's get started. We'll move to Section 5, Statutory Public Meeting Items for consideration, starting with 5.1, which is a consent and official plan amendment application. And this is files number B42-20 and OPA 3-2020, and this concerns 48 McKenzie Lane. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor McMahon. If you would read that, sir.
This is a Bailey McMahon motion that the information report of development services dated September 23rd, 2020 regarding consent file number B42-20, an official plan amendment file number OPA 3-20 be received, and that a report with a recommendation for decision be brought forward to a future meeting reflecting the public feedback from this statutory meeting.
Very good, thank you, sir. All right, so we'll begin with asking if the applicant or agent is present and if any have additional comments to include in the public meeting staff report. And I have first on the list here, Ashlyn Kennedy. Ashlyn, congratulations for getting successfully zoomed in, and you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening. I do not have anything to add to the report prepared by your planning staff, but I am here to answer any questions if anyone has anything to ask.
Okay, committee members have any questions? Seeing none, okay, I will ask if the staff have any additional comments. Okay, thanks very much.
In fact, questions will be asked.
Sorry?
I'm here for questions as well. Sorry.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, anybody have questions of staff? Councillor Bailey.
James, thank you. Couple of points for the sake of clarification. Just so that folks watching can understand where we're going here, this is allowing the creation of one new lot.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Sorry, I'm flicking through my pages. There was confusion among some folks who emailed me where I'm in one of the paragraphs that says this policy limits the number of lots to be created by consent to a maximum of 3 where there are private services. Have there been others done in the past? Would this impact the number that we're doing now?
Through the chair, yes. So there were 2 lots created with 1 retained, so 3 new lots were created in 2015. But the applicants have applied for an official plan amendment, which would allow for this new lot. They have provided a hydrogeological assessment to review the impacts of the private wells and the septic as well.
Wonderful. If I could have one more.
Yep.
James, bear with me. It says in the executive summary, 4th paragraph, therefore a rezoning will not be required. But when we look at the conditions, number 2 says approved rezoning of subject lands. Is that a contradiction, or is that just something that has to be there anyway?
So that is just a standard draft condition that was probably there in error, but it does still stand. Should there be any new restrictions that come from the public meeting, a zoning could be put on, as it was advertised, as it was thought at first the zoning was going to be required, but at a further glance it was decided that a zoning was not required as the subject lands are zoned LSR and the new lots would meet those zoning standards.
Thank you.
Councillor St. Jean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I should explain to council my history goes back a little bit further on this file, back to the original severance back in severance and rezoning back in 2015. My mother was a property owner along the laneway, and at the time I was asked to be agent for that, for the residents there. And at the time, as everybody knows, we've seen all of the emails that have come back and forth with regards to this recurring. And one theme that is, I'm sure everybody noted, is that the residents were told at the time that there would be no further severances, that 1 retained plus 2 was the maximum. In my research, trying to figure out why this is happening or if it can happen again, of course, I reached out to the clerk and received the files from 2015, and tried to tried to access the live streaming from back then, but for everybody's interest, it does not exist anymore because those archives disappeared in August of 2019, I believe. So knowing what we were told at the time, and that is the basis for a number of the concerns from the residents, it's unfortunate that I couldn't get that evidence to prove what was being said at the time, which was probably an error. Somebody made a statement in error, I have to admit that, but it was accepted in good faith. And that, for the committee's reference, is why the residents are somewhat up in arms, a small part of it. So I needed to give you that background. I do want to ask a question of our planner, James, with regards to the hamlet designation for the area, the general area, so that council and residents in North Marysburg, particularly in the Wapoos Hamlet area, are aware this could happen to a number of properties. Is that correct? Because the hamlet area kind of encompasses a lot of what I'll call prime agricultural land and some, if not prime, very darn good, a number of orchards, you name it. So can you maybe explain a little further, not just for this committee's benefit, but the benefit of those watching at home, which I know they are, how this happened, and will it happen again within that hamlet designation?
So, through the chair, Wapoos is a settlement area, and as defined through the provincial policy statement and our official plan. The provincial policy statement guides development, especially rural development, to rural settlement areas. So it is, through the PPS, this is where they'd want development. They'd want it in the hamlet, or not but the province, and our official plan would encourage development within settlement areas within hamlet designations. So if any, it's a case-by-case basis, whether an application, depending on the land, where it could be severed, but in other places in Wapoos, a severance for new lots could occur, or any further development.
Yes,
just
follow-up.
a quick follow-up, or actually a second question, I guess, with regards to the impending official plan, and maybe it's an unfair question to ask you, but I'll ask it anyways. Is it possible that we will be looking at more of these? Well, I suspect we'll be seeing more of these coming forward. There are a lot of private laneways here in the county, but with regards to the official plan, are we going to possibly see some tweaks to some of the hamlet areas to maybe forestall some of these, I'll call them unnecessary developments in areas that really don't have services?
Through the chair, I'd also like to just point out that McKenzie Lane has been upgraded to the municipal road or private road bylaw, so emergency services have the appropriate ability to get into McKenzie Lane and turn around. But to answer your question regarding the hamlet designation in the official plan, again, the official plan is a draft. Right now, I don't believe we have any specific policies regarding private lanes and hamlet designations. But again, as council, if that's something you would like to see, it is still a draft, and it's still up for consultation. So we are still reviewing the draft official plan.
Okay, and also I'd like to thank you for the effort that you put in explaining this to in greater in-depth for Councillor Bailey and I the other night. Much appreciated, that extra step.
No problem.
All right, thank you. Any other committee members, a question for staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll turn to the audience who wish to speak on the subject application, and I think, Madam Clerk, it might be Brittany or Dustin. Okay. So Brittany is not here. Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear Norm Gray?
Yeah, we're just going to hold on a second, please, Norman. We're just checking. Okay, so you said Sorry, folks, just a little change in the lineup here. So who's going to go next? Norman. Okay, so Norman, you are up next, sir. Thank you for coming. Just a reminder that you have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Is my volume okay?
Perfect.
Okay, my name's Norman Gray. I am the owner of lot 109 McKenzie Lane. My father purchased the lot in 1958, and it was willed to me on his passing in 2005. I would like to make you aware of why I speak against further severances of lots on this private lane, McKenzie Lane. Adjacent to us is lot 112, and it was purchased from the then owners a few years ago. The lot is small and it has limited access. The then owners of the lot, who were neighbors and good friends, promised to try not to sell to anyone who would rent it out on a B&B or a short-term rental basis. New purchasers said that they would not, and that it was their intention to be the sole users. The house was sold and it was rented out to tourists or transients almost immediately. Renters did their best to park on the rented property, but often there were 3 or 4 cars present, and the roadway was also sometimes used for parking. When trying to depart, the drivers, for whatever reason, ended up backing onto our grass, which led to problems for us. It killed our grass. We have a dead-end property, a private lane with no turning space. The lane is a fire route, and there happened to have been a fire on lot 111 a number of years ago. The lane has seen increased traffic flow, and with it increased noise, dust, and curious visitors who for some reason do not read the signs posted indicating that the line is private, a dead end, no trespassing and private property signs were posted. Increased visitors have brought many unwanted practices. Dogs barking, dogs running loose and messing on the property of others. Noises are also a problem. One night around midnight, we heard what we thought were gunshots. The police were phoned and they arrived promptly. On investigation, they reported it was just firecrackers. The next time it happened, and it did, we ignored it. When the large property at the northeast end of the lane was split into 3 lots, we were told there would be no further severances. McKenzie Lane is a private lane. It is not a city street. We ask that you not allow further severances as was promised to us. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will take this input into consideration when you make your decision.
Thanks, Norman. If you'll just hold on a sec, I'll check with committee members, see if they have any follow-up questions for you. Anyone have a question for Norman? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Norman. Appreciate it. And Madam Clerk, could you just confirm, is Brittany or Dustin either? Neither.
Through you, Mr. Chair, neither would like
Neither.
to speak. They're just in attendance to watch, so we'll go to
Julie Jones. Welcome, Julie. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
No, it's hard to follow.
Sorry, I'm going to fumble for a couple of minutes with paper. Don't mean to. Okay, and I do appreciate the opportunity to come before you and exercise the right to be heard. Thank you for your time. I'm actually going to start with a part of a letter that was sent on behalf of Martin Handforth. One of the first points he makes about how it's a private road and everybody who lives on the road has to agree to a severance. Not true. The entire little bit of community does not have to agree. McKenzie Lane is a right-of-way. I live at number 10 McKenzie Lane. It's the first house on the lane. Everybody passes my home. They're going to pass other people's homes as well. When Huff Estates asked to sever the land into 3 lots, part of that deal was that they fixed the road. McKenzie Lane was notorious at the time for being full of potholes. So they fixed it, no potholes, everybody drives real fast. There's always an opposite and equal reaction to anything you do. So the dust and the speed on the road that is an issue is not going to go away unless we put traffic calming measures in place. The turnaround has always been a problem for some people, specifically for Mr. Handforth. But that's where the fire trucks and ambulances and all the big propane tankers and oil tankers actually back up to, turn around, and so they can drive out the laneway the right way round, as opposed to backing up all the way, beeping as they go. I don't see that as a big issue. Somewhere along the line, somebody came up with the idea that there was going to be a trailer park built somewhere around there. The notion is kind of absurd. I find it really amusing, actually, but I don't think it should be taken seriously as part of an objection. Okay. In regard to me and my husband, we live in McKenzie Lane, full-time, year-round residents. And we're here to support, unequivocally, the separation. We're talking about one additional home, potentially 2 more cars, so in total, maybe 4 more cars. The people who are doing most of the objections live past the severance, so the cars coming from the 2 new homes aren't really going to affect them. The noise, there's nothing we can do about. Objections to potentially more STAs. Well, we already are well aware the council has put in measures to hopefully help balance the proliferation of STAs or not. Okay. Most of the properties, again, from the people who are doing most of the objection, are tiny lots. We're talking about a 5-acre plus being split into 2.5-acre lots, give or take. I think that's not too much to ask, and I know that covers septic issues and water issues. There's also a lot of talk about the deal that was made. Nothing in writing, nothing in concrete, nothing is concrete. At the end of the day, official plans get changed. Places to grow got changed. Greenbelt got changed. Like death and taxes, things change. We may not like all of those changes, but I think to deny a couple of young families the opportunity to live in a welcoming, hopefully, community is a little elitist, and we need young families in Wapoos. We have a baseball diamond that hasn't been used for 4 years because us old folk can't play baseball anymore. We can't run. So maybe if we can get some kids who live there, we can start some other type of activities. So once again, I ask you to consider and go with the proposed severances as is. I don't think it's as big an issue. Bit of a storm in a teacup as far as I'm concerned. Thank you again for your time. I do support the severance.
Thanks, Julie. Just hold on a sec. I'll check to see if committee have any questions. Councillor Bailey.
Not a question, just a comment, Julie. I just wanted to thank you. What a lot of these folks won't know is that you are one of the prime volunteers in that area, working at the North Marysburg Community Center and all that sort of thing. You have the pulse of the community very much, as far as I'm concerned. That's why I've relied on you a number of times for your feedback on things that have been going on. You might not have liked my reaction a couple of times, but that's okay. We can have commerce, if you will. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, thanks again. All right, so we have the motion on the floor. We have a show of hands in favor. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Margetson has a question.
You just missed me before.
Okay, please.
Sorry, I just had a question for James. James, and this was related to the additional severance. And I remember when this was severed, and I think the understanding of most of the folks and I think it's legitimate that there wouldn't be another severance. And I understand that they're doing an official plan amendment here. So can you tell me that the reason that this could be approved under your land use designation policies to create another lot when 3 have already been created? Is it because it's in a hamlet? Is that the main? Because normally in rural Prince Edward County, we get 2 and 1 and yeah.
Yeah, so through the chair, if, for example, if this wasn't the rural designation, it wouldn't have been a thought. It was something that was brought forward to council for a public meeting, as it is in a settlement area. As the provincial policy statement states that growth, especially rural growth, should be in rural settlement areas like Wapoos. Therefore, in the hamlet designation, if it were on municipal services, so water, you'd be allowed 5 severances. So 4 severed, 1 retained. So in this case, they've only had their 3, and they're looking for 1 more. So we said if that is the case, you're going to have to do an official plan amendment, but we'd also want to ensure that the proper rural services are there, at which time they provided us a hydrogeological assessment, which examined to ensure that there wouldn't be any negative impacts on neighboring rural services.
So the hamlet designation is important to recognize, yeah?
Very, very important.
Okay.
The fact that it's in a settlement area is very important to the fact as why an official plan amendment could be supported in this instance. But it should also be noted that this is a public meeting and no recommendation is on the floor at this time.
Thank you, James.
Good. Anyone else? All right, so let's call the vote. All those in favor? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, that carries. 9, that carries. Thank you. All right, thank you. Moving to 5.2, a consent and rezoning application. This is for 19099 Loyalist Parkway, Ward of Hillier. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this one, please? Councillor Margetson will move it, seconded by Councillor Prinzen, if you would, sir.
This is a Margetson-Prinzen motion that information report DS 123/2020 of Development Services dated August 26, 2020 regarding consent files numbers B5220 and B5320 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z4220 be received, and that a recommendation for decision be brought forward to a future meeting reflecting the public feedback from this statutory meeting.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir. So, moving to the applicant or agent are either present, and if they have some additional comments, I do believe we have Sean standing by.
Good evening.
You here, Sean?
I'm here in person tonight.
There you are, sir. Very good.
I thought I'd give it a whirl.
All right, thanks very much for coming, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Sean Legere, Senior Planner with RFA Planning Consultant, agent for applications B5220, B5320, and Z4220. We have reviewed the staff report and are in general agreement with the draft conditions. I did speak with James the other day, though, about a friendly amendment to the RU1-254 zone to apply the same rear yard or 30-meter setback to that zone as well. And that's it. Thank you. Here to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Is there any questions for the agent? Councillor Margetson.
Hello, Sean.
Hello, Ernie.
I just wanted to make a comment about one thing you said in your report. And it was regarding consent should not contribute to ribbon or strip residential development. And you said that the proposed development will not contribute to the extension of ribbon or strip residential development. In between North Beach Road and Palmer Burse Road on the Pleasant Bay side, there will be 30 lots with these 2 additional ones, and I think there's about 25 houses. So I don't necessarily agree with that statement. I just wanted to say that publicly myself anyway. I don't know if you want to respond to what you believe ribbon or strip residential development is?
I guess my only follow-up to that is it's part of a much larger area that was established a long time ago. in the shoreland designation. So this area extends from County Road 27 all the way to Pleasant Bay Road, which is much further to the east. And so there's many rural residential uses between those two roads. So it's not extending it, it's already there, I think is the main comment to that.
Thanks.
All right, anyone else? Okay, so we, Madam Clerk, we have Matthew on here. Is Matthew, Matthew is, yes?
I think he's just there to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for the applicant from members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn to ask the staff then if they have any additional questions or comments.
Through the chair, no, we do not, other than, actually, sorry, I'm so used to saying that, I actually have one. The chart in the report gives the wrong dimensions for the lots. The severed A lot is to be 4.17 hectares. Severed B is 0.8 hectares, which is correct on the chart, and the retained lands is 0.9 hectares. But beyond that, I do not have any further comments.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Clerk, just to clarify, I don't see that there are any folks in the audience, either in person or on Zoom, to comment. Is that still correct? Okay. Anything else from committee? Yes. Councillor Maynard.
Thank you. Through you to the chair, to the staff. And this one on the condition number 10 is kind of one worded that we don't normally see. Is that to ensure that the setbacks from the wetland are respected? Number 10, the pros.
Sorry, I'm going to have to grab a report.
I could read it, but go ahead.
I believe it is likely the one that regards to the recommendations by the EIS. Is that?
Yep, the mitigation and restoration measures.
Yes. So through the chair, that is something we have in, I'd say, start of 2020. It is when we have had EISs, we have used that as a tool to put on title to ensure that the mitigation measures are being adhered to. And so in this case, we are doing that. So the mitigation measures ensure that, yes, the setbacks are being adhered to, but also some measures for construction of the dwellings when they go to be constructed. And I'd also like to note that as they are draft conditions, they are in very standard and generic wording. So when we come back with comprehensive reports, the new practice is going to be that they are the real conditions after we hear from the applicant, the agent, and the public. But right now, the conditions you see now are draft and in a generic language.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I guess I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. All right, thanks very much. Okay, I think that's it. So just a bit of admin work here. So within 15 days of council decision, a notice of decision will be mailed out as prescribed, advising of the decision, the conditions, if any, and the date on which the 20-day appeal period to the local planning appeal tribunal expires. If no appeals are received, council's decision is final. Any person who wishes to receive notice of decision of council must submit a written request to the municipal clerk. So let's move to 5.3, motion to resume sitting as council. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor McMahon, seconded by Councillor Margetson. If you'd read that, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is McMahon, Margetson motion that the Planning Committee now rise and resume sitting as council.
Those in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. And over to the mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harper. So we'll move to decision items for consideration. Item 7.1. If we could have a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor. I think Councillor Maynard wants to do this, and Councillor McMahon will be the seconder. Councillor Maynard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Maynard McMahon motion that report DS 126-2020 of the Development Services dated September 23rd, 2020, regarding consent file number B1820 and zoning amendment file number Z1220 be received, that consent file number B1820, Voskamp Poultry Farms Limited for lands described as Part Lot 83, Concession 2, as in Prince Edward 57, 610, except Part 1 and 2, 47R 4281, Part 1 and 2, 47R 7264, Ward 4, Ameliusburg be approved, subject to the following conditions, 1 through 12. That zoning file number Z1220, Voskamp Poultry Farms Limited for lands described as Part Lot 83, Concession 2, as in P 57 610, except Part 1 and 2, 47R 4281, Part 1 and 2, 47R 7264, Ward 4, Ameliusburg be approved.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask if staff have any additional comments to the staff report.
Through the mayor, no, we do not.
Okay, I'll ask if the applicant or the applicant's agent is present. I believe that is Sean. So do you have any, are you in agreement with the conditions of approval as outlined in the report?
Yes, Worship.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this application? Seeing no one, is there anyone on Zoom, Madam Clerk? No? Okay, I will ask members of council if there are any questions. Seeing none, we've got a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please. And that carries. Thank you very much. So we'll move to item 7.2, Elizabeth Armstrong et al. Concerning 29 Erdman Lane. If we could have a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Hirsch, seconded by Councillor St. Jean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the Hirsch St. Jean motion that the report of development services dated September 23rd, 2020 regarding consent file number B58-20 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z44-20 be received. That consent file number B58-20 Armstrong et al. For lands described as Part Lot 1, Concession 1, north of Black River, Part 1 and 3, 37R 2034, ST and TWPE 129452, Ward 9, South Marysburg be approved subject to the following conditions, and those are conditions 1 through 10. And that zoning file number Z44-20 Armstrong et al. For lands described as Part Lot 1, Concession 1, north of Black River, Part 1 and 3, 37R 2034, ST and TWPE 129452, Ward 9, South Marysburg, be approved.
Okay. Thank you. I'll ask staff if there are any additional comments to include with the report.
Through your worship, no, there's not.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. And I will ask if the applicant or the applicant's agent is present. I believe that is Brendan. Brendan.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. We have reviewed, my name's Brendan O'Connor. I'm a land use planning consultant. I've reviewed the conditions with the applicant, and we are in support of the recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this application? Seeing none, any members of council have any questions? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So we'll move to 7.3, consent and rezoning application concerning Todd Lichty and Melanie Taylor. If we could have a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Harper.
This is a Bailey Harper motion that the report of development services dated September 23, 2020 regarding consent file number B59-20 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z47-20 be received. That consent file number B59-20 Lichty and Taylor for lands described as Part Lot 5, Concession 2, north of Black River, as in PE 48035, Ward 8, North Marysburg, be approved subject to the following conditions 1 through 12. That rezoning file number Z47-20 Lichty and Taylor for lands described as Part Lot 5 Concession 2 north of Black River as in PE 48035, Ward 8, North Marysburg be approved.
Okay, thank you very much. I will ask staff if there are any additional comments concerning this application.
Through your worship, we have one. There is a friendly amendment. We gave the staff pass the wording along to the clerk this afternoon. It is just in regards to the drainage conditions. At a second look, our commenting agent or commenter from the engineering division, John Gooding, noticed that he put an error on the condition. It should read that condition 5 should read, prior to endorsing the deed for the severed lot, the Director of Development Services shall indicate satisfaction to the applicant's lot grading drainage plan provided by an Ontario land surveyor through the knowledge and design of construction. The plan shall address drainage discharge. Sorry, it's condition number 6, where it says retained and severed lands. It should just say retained lands, as the severed lands have existing development on them.
Okay, so we're striking that language, okay? That it?
That's it.
Okay. I will ask if the applicant or the applicant's agent is present.
Yes, again, Your Worship, Brendan O'Connor. We reviewed the conditions, including the changes, and are in agreement.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak to this? Okay, any questions of members of council? So I will call the vote. All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, in the second reading, I believe it is 5 and 6. If the clerk, do you have the exact wording that was sent to you today? I believe 5 did not change, but we sent 5 just in case.
Okay, let's clarify this. Which clauses are changing?
Through your worship, it's my understanding that 5 and 6 are slightly changing with the wording on 6. It affects number 5.
Yes, so it would be because they would examine the retained lands rather than just the severed and retained, as the drainage is existing on the severed lands as it is existing development. So the engineering staff has asked that, has provided the wording for 5 and 6, but I believe only 6 changes.
So clause 6, we're striking in the third line. It refers to the retained and severed lots. So we're striking, just read the line.
So it'd say the review of drainage on the retained and severed lots. Okay. So it'd just say retained lots.
So we're striking and severed lots.
That's correct.
Okay. And any other changes?
Through your worship, no, there's not.
Okay. All right, so we've been through the applicant's agent and anybody in the audience, so I will ask if there are any questions of members of council. Everybody clear? Okay, so I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. So we will move to 7.4. If we could have a mover and a seconder for this concerning Ronald Kerr at 1588 Fry Road. Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Margetson. Councillor Roberts, if
Thank
you
you, Mayor.
could read this.
This is a Roberts-Margetson motion that the report of development services dated September 23, 2020 regarding consent file number B60-20 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z48-20 be received. The consent file number B60-20 Kerr for lands described as Part Lot 4, Plan 4, being part of Glebe Lands, Part Lot 22, Concession 2, SW Green Point, Part 1 and 2, 47R 7643, Ward 6 of Fiasburg be approved, subject to the following conditions, 1 through 12, that zoning file number Z48-20 Kerr for lands described as Part Lot 4, Plan 4, being part of Glebe Lands, Part Lot 22, Concession 2, SW Greenpoint, Part 1 and 2, 47 R7 643, Ward 6 of Fiasburg, be approved.
Okay, thank you very much. I will ask staff again if there are any additional comments to include with the report.
Through your worship, no, there's not.
All right, okay. Are the applicant or the applicant's agent present?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Jennifer Matthews, I'm a planning coordinator with Watson Land Surveyors. I'm stepping in for Keith tonight. He was unable to be here. We just wanted to let everyone know we've read over the conditions with our client and we are in agreement with the recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there anybody in the audience? Nobody on Zoom speaking to this, Madam Clerk? No? Okay. So I will ask members of council, any questions concerning this file? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So we'll move to 7.5, consent and rezoning application, DM Princeton Farms Incorporated. Mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Margetson, seconded by Councillor Harper.
This is a Margetson-Harper motion that report of development services dated September 23rd, 2020 regarding consent file number B6120 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z4920 be received, and that consent file number B6120 DM Princeton Farms Incorporated for lands described as Lot 17, Part Lot 175, 28, Plan 2, Bloomfield, Part Lot 8, Concession 2, Military Tract, Ward 2, Bloomfield, Hallowell, be approved subject to the following conditions, 1 through 6 inclusive, and that zoning file number Z49-20 DM Princeton Farms, Inc. for lands described as Lot 17, Part Lot 175, 28, Plan 2, Bloomfield, and Part Lot 8, Concession 2, Military Tract, Ward 2, Bloomfield, Hallowell, be approved.
Okay, thank you. And I'll ask staff if they have any additional comments concerning this file.
So, Your Worship, no, we do not.
Okay. Is the applicant or the applicant's agent present, and are you in agreement with the conditions of approval as outlined in the report? And I have down here that Michael Linden is speaking to this.
Through the mayor, I've spoken with Michael Linden, and he is in agreement with the conditions. He will not be in attendance tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's obviously no one in the audience, no one on Zoom with any questions, so I will ask members of council. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Thank you. So we'll move to item 7.6. Zoning bylaw amendment concerning 194 4692 Ontario Limited. If we could have a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Harper, seconded by Councillor Prinzen.
It's a Harper Prinzen motion that the report of development services dated September 9, 2020 regarding zoning bylaw amendment file number Z50-20 be received, and that zoning application file number Z50-20 1974692 Ontario Limited for lands described as part lots 1025, 1030, 1032, 1076, and 1514. All of the lots 1026, 1028, 1031, 1077, and 1513. Part of road allowance between lot 1032 and lots 1030 and 1031. Registered Plan 24, Ward of Picton, be approved.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask staff if they've got any comments concerning this file. Any additional comments?
Through the chair, no additional comments.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant or the applicant's agent present?
Jennifer Wood.
Okay, Jennifer, are you in agreement with the conditions of approval as outlined in the report?
I'm having a little trouble hearing you, but yes, through you, I have read the report and I agree with the recommendations of staff.
You agree with them? Okay, thank you very much. And anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? No? So I will ask if there are any questions of, oh, I'm sorry, is there someone? James Barr? No? Okay, well, all right, so you'll email him. I'll ask if there are any questions of members of council. Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Maynard.
Thank you. So from the statutory meeting and combining them, just ask staff from the comments that were presented at the comments from the audience and the comments from the council, what or if anything has changed in this draft?
So through the chair, the red line revisions are very minor. The purpose of them was, my understanding is there was a slight adjustment to the road alignment, which required a shift in 2 of the lots. One of the issues with this development is that each lot was site specifically zoned. So anytime there's a shift in the lot line, there is a requirement for a zoning change. So the 2 major spots are where there was 2 semi-detached dwellings and then a small adjustment at the Claremont. There was a lot adjustment there. So that's the main purpose of the zoning application. So it's really technical in nature. And it just implements some red line revisions that the developer has suggested. To give you an update on the project as a whole, we have been working with Jennifer from Foten as well as the developer. They're very close to finalizing the draft plan and conditions. I suspect we'll see something from them within the month of October, possibly bringing it back in November.
So just
follow up.
Yeah, just for clarification, then the maps we see with the faint red lines, those would be the adjustments that
Correct.
are coming before us.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any luck with Mr. Barr, Madam Clerk? No. Okay, well, we've got the motion on the floor. Any other questions of members of council? So I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So we will now move to item 7.7. If we could have a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor St. Jean, seconded by Councillor Forrester.
Thank you, Your Worship. St. Jean Forrester motion that the items approved under Delegated Authority Bylaw 98-2020 be received for information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor? That carries. So we'll move to 7.8. We could have a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Harper, seconded by Councillor St. Jean.
Harper St. Jean motion that the report of development services dated September 23, 2020 regarding zoning bylaw amendment file number Z51-20 be received, and that the deeming bylaw application file number Z50-20 1974-69-2 Ontario Limited for lands described as part lots 1025, 1030, 1032, 1076, and 1514, all of lots 1026, 1028, 1031, 1077, and 1513. Part of road allowance between lot 1032 and lots 1030 and 1031, registered plan 24, Ward of Picton, be approved.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from staff concerning this?
Through the chair, no additional comments.
Okay, thank you. And again, I've got James Barr and Jennifer Wood down here. I would ask if they have read through this.
Through Your Worship, it seems that Jennifer has left the phone, the Zoom call, and James is not present either on the Zoom call.
Okay, and we don't have anybody in the audience, so I'll ask if there are any questions of members of council. Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. So bylaws for consideration. If we could have a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor McMahon.
This is a Bailey McMahon motion that the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. 8.1.1, 8.1.2, 8.1.3, 8.1.4, 8.1.5, 8.1.6, and 8.1.7.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? That carries. So the confirmatory bylaw, mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor Harper.
Mr. Mayor, Forrester Harper, motion that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. A bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the County of Prince Edward at a meeting held on September 23rd, 2020.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Thank you. And motion to adjourn from Councillor Prinzen, seconded by Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a Prince and Roberts motion that this meeting now adjourn at 7:57 p.m.
Thank you. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much.